right, we're back on another week of that Scale RC show. I'm your host, Adam Dean, along with,
Jeremy Kendall.
and yeah, we're just going to be sitting here talking to you guys again. Hopefully, not boring you guys to sleep. Uh, Jeremy, did you have anything going on this past weekend?
No, not really. I worked a lot at the weekend and then met a couple of buddies up at one of the spots we go crawling at that is a city park, and so it's open until 10 p.m. And so we did some night crawling and stuff. So that was a pretty good time. Haven't done anything like that in a while, so did that.
Nice,
Wasn't
man.
super cold or anything. It was pretty cool.
I want to get out and do some night crawling. I got all these lights on the black JK, and I don't get to use them. Same with the Blazer. I got a ton of lights on there too, and don't get to use them.
Yeah, it's
So
weird. The whole spot that we were at, it was kind of like doing the place again for the first time. I mean, I've been there before, really late by myself and stuff, but you always get like more input when you've got a couple guys and people are seeing things that you don't and everything, and so it was kind of cool because a lot of it just felt like doing it all over again for the first time, like it was just you know new there, and so that was really cool. That definitely made it fun. I don't know why we don't do it more. And really, the lights on the rigs, for the most part, like it seems like that's just sort of for looks. I mean, my headlamp seems to work so good that I don't really rely on the lights on the rig a whole lot. So, but I don't know. It's just something funny. I don't know why we don't go do it more. It's not like I don't know. There's less people up there. It's not crowded. It's pretty killer. So I don't know. Hopefully, it's something we'll get to do a little bit more of.
nice. Yeah. I think the hardest part for me is it's just we don't really or where we are. There's not too many organized night crawls, and if there is a night crawl, it's typically on something where either a just me, I have to get back, home or something. Like I know Crawl for a Cure, they normally do a night crawl after the award ceremony, after excuse me, everybody has dinner and stuff. They like get together, go back out, but that's for the people that are camping. There's a lot
Right.
of people. I want to say like 60% clears out after dinner and heads home. So it's like, so you don't get to crawl. And then what else? I know that like the ASD boys, they at their event they usually host a night crawl. I forget if they try to do it the night before or the night. I think it's the same thing. It's the night after, and just because I don't camp because it's not that far away from me,
Mm-hmm.
they always have it in the Central Valley, so it takes me like hour and a half to get there. So it's like, all right, I'll just pack up and head home. No need to
Yeah.
camp. Plus, when they do it, it's in August, so it's pretty hot. So other than that, I really only get to do nighttime crawling when I go to Axial Fest. So because that's really the only time we're actually camping the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
That seems like in the
but
past that's been our really our only time, but also like the years in the past here that we've been doing it there, like we're so busy during the daytime that it don't really get to go away. I mean, the last time I was there, I got to do one trail during the day, and I think all the rest were at night because that's like only free time we had.
yeah, I also noticed like because it gets kind of hot, we just that's kind of like what me and Elio have always said too. We're just like, hey, let's just go hit the trail at night because it's cooler, and we noticed that especially this last year that was actually a pretty popular thing. There were the diehards obviously out on trail during the day, but at night was when it seems like it really came to life, and you just see people walking by. I know like Chris Presswood would come by or camp with Micaiah, and uh, and for those of you who don't know Chris Presswood's SBC, he would come by and they would and they'd always be like, "You guys coming out?" Like it was funny every night. You guys coming out? And it's so yeah, so it was pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, other than that, I really don't do a whole lot of night, which kind of sucks because sometimes we put a lot of effort into putting lights on our rigs, and if you don't get to use them, it's kind of like what's the point, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So um, yeah, because that's why sometimes when it's kind of dark out, I'll run the lights. Even if it's during the day, I'll run the lights on the JK just because I have them.
Right.
So
Yeah. It looks
not
cool in
not
pictures.
yeah. So for the most part, but let's see. Yeah, and then speaking of which, that's actually what I did this weekend. I went to that March of Dimes, Crawl for Tiny Humans. It was put on by Jesse Ham. It was actually a pretty small turnout. I think he said somewhere around 38, 40 people. So, it wasn't
Oh,
like a
that's
huge,
not
huge
bad.
turnout. But for a small, kind of first inaugural kind of like event, uh, it wasn't bad. But the cool thing was, you know, which I always like to hear too, they didn't set up to have some like to expect some crazy number. They already knew that it was going to be kind of smaller. They already knew that they might not get the donations they were looking for. So I guess they set their benchmark at $500, and I actually remember Jesse's wife was announcing right after the raffle that they had a little over $700. So they said plus some other fundraiser that they do outside of RC. I think their little I don't want to like say like I guess click like their little group that's doing the donation was
Mm-hmm.
going to have a little over $1,000. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Man, that is awesome.
So
That's pretty.
so and
That's
it's
like
all
a.
going to March.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I was just gonna say that that's like a good manageable number too for especially for a first event. Like I think the
Well,
first time I ever did something, we had 57 entries, not people, but that was entries, and I was expecting like 10, 12 guys, so that can go wrong really
yeah.
fast.
Well, the other thing too is it's kind of like what within it. What you don't realize is Mount Diablo, where it was held at, is not exactly, especially on a day where it could be nice out and there's a ton of people, hiking and whatnot. It gets pretty crowded, so it's kind of hard to be like on trail crawling around with your car because you get the people that walk by and they ask, oh, what's that? Oh, that's really cool. How much is it for one of those? Do those things do this? And and they ask you the 21 questions. And,
Hmm.
sometimes, some people get annoyed by the 21 questions, or you get the other ones where they don't understand what the tennis balls are for. And you get kids picking them up and throwing them. You get dogs taking them, and
We
you're
had that
like,
happen at the last one. We had a lot of them moved by the time it was ready to go. That sucked.
yeah. So I mean, it's just like, yeah. So, but like I said, otherwise it was pretty cool. It was actually, like I said, it was really shocking. I know we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. This last weekend, especially Saturday, woke up. It was kind of like chilly out, so I, grabbed a sweatshirt and was actually in long pants and headed out. Dude, I was like halfway there, and it started getting gusty and drizzly. So I was like, really? I was like, this is gonna be fun. So I get all the way up there, and it stayed kind of gusty for a while, and it was almost like just kind of like constant dewing. It wasn't raining. It was just like almost like the mister at like when you're at the grocery
Mm-hmm.
store, and
Yeah.
you're just like, really? So yeah, and also he did it. The other cool thing about it was he did it a little differently. He started out with a raffle, which I thought was kind of cool. It definitely, um, I guess, gives you a different approach on how to run an event if that's something you want to do. And I spoke with Jesse about it just to kind of see why he did it, and he said this way, you know, because everybody's got things going on. He said if you have to cut out early, or if you're out on trail, you don't have to stop to come in and do something when you want to be out there. So he said this way you get it over with, and everybody else can. Then you can do whatever you have to do. If you have to take off, you can take off. If you want to hit the trail, if you can only trail for a few hours, it just frees you up a lot more. So that way you could do everything a little more independently.
Right.
Instead of like, because I mean, I've been to numerous events where you get people going, they said it was going to be, the raffle was going to be at 3 o'clock, right? And you're like, yeah. Oh, what time is it? Oh, it's 2:45. Oh, I guess we're not going back out on trail. Okay, I guess
Mm,
we better go back
yeah.
and take back. So it's yeah. So some people, it works, but yeah, it was totally cool. And the other different thing too, which is actually a pretty ingenious marketing ploy, is or not ploy, but idea. Um, his uh, the raffle tickets were you got them not for basically buying raffle tickets. They are based on donations. So the raffle tickets were for the donation. So like for instance, if you wanted to put in $20, you put in $20, and that gets you, your, I forget what it was. I think 20 got you like 30 or 40 tickets, and then $10 got you like 20 tickets, and $5 got you 5 tickets. So it wasn't until you started putting in the bigger money that you actually got, your tickets worth. But it was kind of cool because there's some people that spend a lot of money on raffles.
Oh yeah.
And what's the other? Oh, and then the other big highlight, there was actually a guy who drove up from LA.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty crazy. I thought it was pretty crazy that I finally got to meet this guy, and I know I always butcher his last name, Alan DeHoylensid, as I think how you say it. He's the other half of the Purple Heart RC guys. Um, he's actually a a military veteran,
All right.
and he drove up from Visalia, which I thought was pretty far to begin with, because that's
Yeah.
like a 4 hour, 3 4 hour drive up to San Ramon. So um, yeah, no, so it was pretty cool. We had a good time. About noonish, I want to say, the sun started coming out, so it started turning into a pretty decent day after that. Which, of course, that's when more and more people started showing up because actually that was the one thing I thought was going to be kind of cool. I was like, all right, well, it's kind of not crappy, crappy weather, but your average person's not going to come out here and have a picnic in this. So I said we should be pretty good. And then all of a sudden the sun started coming out. And by the time we made it back to the parking lot, there's people setting up for barbecues, and you got people getting their hiking stuff together, and you're like, yep, here's where the madhouse starts.
Yeah,
So
that gets a little rough at times, especially depending on the area and the weather and everything else. So we get pretty lucky here in the spring and the fall when it's not super nice out. But there's a few spots in the summertime that you can't go there just because it's going to be so packed. Like Deception Pass State Park's one of those that are there's just no way it can happen.
yeah, and that's what's always hard. And I guess maybe this is a good thing for some of the listeners. Like, tell us on Facebook. How is it where you guys set up your crawl, or where your favorite place is to crawl? Is there like a time of the year where it gets super packed? Is there, do you have to watch out for hikers? Do you have to worry about, hikers and their dogs taking the tennis balls? If you use tennis balls, I know some people don't, and they just kind of like free trail it and just kind of all follow each other through stuff. And then there's other people
Mm-hmm.
that set, course all the way through. Um, but yeah, like I said, for us, we're pretty lucky. The only time I guess there was an actual incident, like a big serious incident, was at a crawl at Folsom Lake. I guess it was right when it started getting nicer out, and I guess some guy always got irritated when he saw groups of people running their RC cars.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess after he saw everybody set, after they went out and set trail and set up all the tennis balls, I guess he went out with his dog and started picking them up and like throwing them, like
Oh man.
and people started hitting the trail and were like, dude, we can't find like half the trail. Like, what the hell happened? Like, it's just like they disappeared. And I guess it happened at another event, but this time they caught him. So they went and confronted him and said, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "You guys are out here and you guys are always all over the place." And they're like, "We're not hurting anybody. So what's the big deal?" And I guess he was just one of those bitter at the world people. So he just
Right.
didn't, you know. So, but other than that, most people are pretty, polite about it. We've even had a couple people where like the dogs pick them up, or the dogs chase the car, and they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry," and they actually, so
Yeah, most people are
it's very,
like that. Hopefully, I mean, it seems at least.
but yeah, and then we got a couple. It was funny. Then we got a couple. Where at the tailgates, loading up batteries, and we had a couple guys walk by, and they were like, "Oh, that's really cool." What is this thing? And you're like, "Oh, they're RC rock crawlers." And he goes, "Oh, that's cool." And he goes, "So if one of us wanted to get into this, how much would it cost?" And I'm like, anywhere from $300 to $400, depending on what ready to run you get. And his eyes kind of bugged out. He's like, I'm like, what did you expect? Like $150? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that
these
always catches
these are
people off guard.
these are hobby grade. They're not really like toys. Like, see, I think they're used to seeing like the Radio Shack stuff that's like $150,
Yeah, exactly.
or Walmart. So, which is actually another funny topic. Um, I've noticed it, especially in some of the malls. I don't know about where you're at if you've ever seen it, but dude, we were walking through the Roseville Galleria. Um, I want to say about a year ago, and I think it was right before Christmas or right after Christmas. Me and Michelle are walking around, and I noticed there was like this like little like kiosk in the center of the thing, and they had a bunch of RC stuff. So I was just kind of looking just to see what it was. I'm not kidding. That was the most. I'll have to find the picture, and if I do, I'll post it up on our page. It is the closest knockoff I've ever seen of the original Axial Wraith.
Really?
I mean, the font was damn near the same. The color scheme was damn near the same. The front bumper, I swear, was a straight up replica. Um, I mean, it's just like I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. I said, there's no there's no shame in this person's game. They had they were like, we're just gonna copy this and we're gonna we're gonna sell it.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I took a picture. I think I even sent it to Elio, and I said, "Dude, can you believe this?" He goes, "Oh," he goes, "Are you at Roseville?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that booth there numerous times."
Huh. We may have something like that. Dude, I seriously haven't been to a mall in probably 2 years, I bet. And they're all around us, but I just haven't had the need to go at all.
Yeah, I understand that. Our actual main mall that we go to doesn't have anything like that, just because I don't know. Maybe because it's not that big. I mean, Roseville Galleria is huge, so that might be why they have more kiosks set up. Where we are, it's just the stores and that's it.
Hmm.
The only excitement you ever get out in the actual like hallway is when it's like Easter or Christmas when you got Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, nothing. But um, yeah, so that basically sums up, my weekend.
That's pretty cool that,
So,
not just because you see a lot of clubs putting on events, but you don't see a lot of just individuals putting on events, especially for something like that where it's for a good cause and for everybody else's enjoyment. And that's really rare because I mean that's a pretty big load to have to undertake. So I don't know. I mean
oh
that's
yeah,
pretty cool of Jesse to pull something off like that, and it'd be neat seeing more people do that. And
yeah, and I think what part of it too comes from is I think some people the reason why they don't do it or the reason why they're standoffish is because like this modern day and it's really sad, but there's a lot of scammers out there,
mm-hmm.
and and they'll say it's for something and you never see any of it, and nothing ever comes of it. But there are some of these that and it actually happens, and like I said, but I think where this one came from, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't have a chance to actually fully ask Jesse all this. I probably should have interviewed him while I was there, but it sounds like his wife is part of some like group, and they I don't want to say like the Girl Scouts, but that kind of like mentality where you're trying to raise money as your kind of like chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to do things like whether it's a bake sale or you're selling soft goods or you know whatever it is. And I think that's where Jesse got the idea and said, well, hey, we have a crawl event. A lot of crawlers come out to stuff like this because it supports something, and it's a positive event, and you get to go out and have fun.
Yeah, no,
So
that's
it's a win-win.
awesome. Something I've always wanted to do up here, and it'd be hard to. I don't know. Maybe it'd surprise me. I hopefully I'd be surprised by this. But what I would like to do is the place we were at this last weekend, Cap Sani Park in Anacortes, Washington. A lot of the photos that I take are of that place because it's pretty amazing. But I'd really like to do a cleanup there because since it is open until late at night, you get a lot of like broken bottles and cans, and there's just cigarette butts everywhere. And so I'd like to try and figure out. I mean, ideally, it'd be sick if people just did it out of the goodness of their heart. Like, yeah, let's get together and clean this place up and have some pride in how it looks, and take care of it, which I think would be cool. But more realistically, I think you need to have to get any kind of a turnout for something like that, have it sort of incentive based. So you'd have to possibly, hit up sponsors for donations and whatnot, and people that participate, that way you get, raffle ticket or whatever. And so I don't know. It
Yeah,
it would suck if I could see it going very badly if it ends up being like just two people doing all the work. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I get it. And the other thing too, like you said, it's the incentive. That's going to be unfortunately, what it takes to get some people, to do it. But honestly, it'd actually be kind of cool to see some sort of like scale art, or not even scale, but like um, RC Parks and Recreation Area cleanup committee. Like where they just, go out and clean up our local trails and just put something together, post
Mm-hmm.
pictures and this, that, and the other. Because I know there are a handful of people that do that anyways when they're out on trail.
Yeah.
And I know I'm one of those. I try to do kind of the same thing because I mean, like, there's sometimes it's just like so crazy. You'll be out in the middle of like the forest, like where it's not even like a popular place where everybody goes hiking or something.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there'll be like crumpled beer cans, or you can see the remnants of somebody's lunch, and you're just like, really? Like you couldn't bring that back with you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
It's just ridiculous. I don't know. It's sad, but I mean that's honestly why some of these bigger, actual one-to-one organizations like Corva, it's California Off-Road Vehicle Association. There's certain times not only are they a big advocate to keep California public lands open for people to enjoy and art and actually one-to-one wheel on,
mm-hmm.
but they also organize cleanup days when they go out and clean up the trail, because if they don't, it's not there's not going to be there anymore. And then you're going to get the the environmental, nuts that go out there and go, see, you guys just go out here and destroy everything and you don't worry about anything, which, isn't the case. There's a lot of us that go out and, because we enjoy being outside in nature. So if you clean up and do your part, you're still allowing it to be there for the next person.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's people are weird that way because I know like even at our events, I'll have like the tailgate to my truck down and have like sign up sheet and scorecards and stuff there. When we're getting things going, and like I'll find people's garbage in the back of my truck at the end of the day. Even it's like, all
Well, I
right,
guess it's
it's
one
better
thing if
there
they
than on
throw
the
it in the
trail,
back.
I guess.
Exactly. I always think that's funny. When we used to go to Supercross a lot, and that was like the same thing. I used to always call it Supercross treasures. We'd come back to your truck and see what's in the bed of it when you come back.
Yep.
I mean, I remember one year we had posters, pit signs, and beer bottles in the back of my truck.
Rad. Thanks.
And I'm like, uh, but like I said, at least they're throwing it there instead of like on the floor. I mean, because it's pretty. Some people are pretty brutal.
Yeah, definitely. No, and especially at like events and stuff, it's like if somebody's going to the expense of putting an event on, and I say expense but not just money but your time also, it's like it's cool if people police themselves and pick up the trash and things like that. I mean, it's like there's no need to create even more work for somebody that's already trying to give back to the hobby or create fun for other people, and it kind of
Yeah.
falls in a little bit to like the event at King Crawlers or King Crawling RC,
Hmm.
excuse me, uh, weekend before last. And I was thinking about it because I had just gotten done showing up to that event, which obviously was put on by other people, and then I've got an event coming up this weekend, and then hearing about Jesse's event from you, and where I'm going with all this is like with Jesse and everything from a sponsor standpoint, he was rad to work with because, he came to me and kind of gave his, introduction to what it was going to be, who it benefited, what it was for. And, of course I was like, right on, dude. Yeah, absolutely. I'll donate what I can. There's sometimes you can do more than, others, but it just kind of depends on your workload and cash flow and stuff. So I put together a pretty good price package, hopefully for him and stuff. But he was like really good about it and messaged me back. I was like, dude, it was awesome, thank you. And just that from a sponsor standpoint, that is really awesome, and that's how you want to. That's exactly what you want out of somebody. So that was really cool. And whenever we do events, I always try and do, the people that kick down and support us, I try and do them justice too. And it's a nice thing when people will put their money towards a day of having fun for other people. And one of the things that kind of had bummed me out was at the King Crawling RC event was the dude throwing the fit over the Confederate flag issue, with us selling those.
Now, yeah, well now you bringing that up, I was actually kind of like, wasn't sure if you're actually going to bring that up because we've talked about this. Like I said, there's a lot of what we talk about off our podcast on our daily lives.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked, well, I'm not shocked, but it's just like, it's nice to hear you actually kind of say something about it because, like, my honest opinion about it, and it kind of goes with this philosophy for everything, in my opinion, is really everything is what you're going to make it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It doesn't matter if you think, vegans are destroying the world, if you think gas guzzlers are destroying the world, you think that somebody's, you know, heritage is like, what they use to symbolize their heritage is right or wrong. It's always going to be what you make of it. If you make a big stink out of it, clearly it's going to bring, or it's going to gravitate into or it will bring in negativity and unwanted, or the attention you actually wanted, to whatever's going on. Now you make a big deal about that, it's gonna, like I said, it's just gonna bring people in, and then you get all the keyboard warriors, or you get the people that won't say anything there, but then they get back home and they get on Facebook and they
Which is
start
what
ranting and
this guy
raving
did.
about it, which is ridiculous. Because I mean, let's just be real. I mean, if you can't say anything to somebody or voice your opinion in person about it, why are you going to wait till you go home? Because they're not in front of your face and it's easier. Now, if they don't like it, they're not going to get back in your face and scare you, or they're not going to get violent. Like, is that the reason? I don't know.
It was really weird
It's,
too because the guy was like, "I'll confront anybody," and it was like, this wasn't a confrontation. Like it wasn't. That was the crappy part. We get through with the whole day, and we're running a course. Finally, I got a little bit of time to run the course and everything, and everybody had gone home for the day except for the guys that rode down with me and the store employees. And then that's when we had noticed a Facebook post. And what gets me is like the guy was so timid when he had approached me about it. Like I didn't understand what he was getting at first. Like the way he was wording it and stuff, at first I thought he was wanting to like buy the sheet, like he wanted it. And I was like, so my response to that was like, I'm sorry, I can't sell it. They already know that it's one of the raffle prizes. That would look really bad if I took one of the raffle prizes back and so so I can get $10 for it. Like that to me, that's pretty crappy. So that's obviously not
yeah,
something I want to do. So I was like, no, sorry. And I was like, okay. And he kind of started carrying on about the flag and stuff, and I was like, all right, dude, cool. I just didn't really care to hear about like his view on any of it because I'm there for RC trucks, not social justice. So I just was like, all right, whatever, dude. And I had talked to him prior before, and the dude was being really pleasant and stuff, and he had a really cool drift car that had that was, I want to say it was on a trailer along with his scaler, and the drift car was this rad body. It was I want to say it was a Subaru Forester. It was something I'd never seen before, and it was wild. I mean, it was really cool. I was like, complimenting him on that and stuff, and like during the raffle when he won a set of our LED headlights during the raffle, and he comes up and is like, "Oh, thank you," and he was like, "You sure you don't want to swap this out for the Confederate flag sheet?" And like at that point I was kind of like sort of had an idea of what he was on about, because it wasn't quite clear to me at first, because like I said, there wasn't really any confrontation that took place. So I mean, that's why I was pretty floored by his Facebook post. But it's like, you know, he's like, are you sure, I can't trade this for the flag sheet? And I was like, I guess. I mean, if you want, dude, that's fine. I don't know why you wouldn't. He's like, no, no, don't worry about it, And he says this to me, and it's right in front of one of the store employees. He's like, no, don't worry about it. And then he goes on to post about how, like, supposedly I refused to swap it out. I was like, wow, that's pretty shady, man. Like, I've never had somebody stoop quite that low, and it was just a really bizarre situation, and it bummed me out to show up somewhere and drop couple $100 in prizes, and have somebody be nice to your face and thank you and whatnot, and then come back up and he wanted to double check about the polarity on wiring, and I told him, and he's like, oh, thanks, totally cool. And then gets home, and then that's when he does the whole social justice warrior post. And dude, I was just floored by it, and I was like, what a cowardly thing to do, for one. Like that.
Well,
I mean, that's gnarly.
yeah, I think from like I said, from not being at the event, not seeing what happened, just being from standby, and just kind of also the fact that, let's be real, I live in a state, not only a state, but an area of the state that's very, liberal, and, that kind of stuff happens almost on a daily basis, where something offends somebody, and instead of, like the old days where you actually talked to somebody, had dialogue, had a confrontation, not even a confrontation, or even like a debate, or just whatever, just a conversation about what's going on. They wait now until you're home, and they make a big stink about it. And the reason why they make a big stink about it, in my opinion, is because that's going to bring, more um, attention to it. And that's ultimately what they want. They want attention to it. It doesn't matter really, and from the outside looking in, what the actual thing's about. It could be the fact that it was, you had a red water bottle and they just don't like that red water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
They that they'll make a big deal out of it just to get a reaction out of people. And then once more people feed in and jump in, they start, like I said, it just starts multiplying, and then they feed off each other. And it's kind of crazy because you'll see them get all hot and heavy, and until they get the actual opposite of what they were expecting, they kind of back off and then shut the whole thing down, because it's
Yeah.
like they're not getting what they thought they were going to get. Because I saw it on
Oh
Facebook,
yeah, they think
and
everybody's going to rally to support him, and when it doesn't go that way, it's like, oh, whoops, okay, And I noticed the guy starts deleting posts and everything else. Like, if anybody had a relevant post or something, like actually legitimate to say, or facts or anything, he started deleting all of those posts. And just what a sad, a sad person. I mean, there's all those
well,
people, all the people there having a good time and enjoying their day, and I'm taking time out of my schedule to go down there and give prizes away to a group of people that I don't know at a shop I've never been to. Why in the world, when somebody's trying to make the hobby a better place, why would you go out of your way to try and take something away from that? Happy people don't do things like that. Sad people do.
because exactly, because there's something that obviously upsets them or bothers them, that they feel whatever it is, sad, mad, or angry, pissed off, whatever it is. So they want everybody else to feel that way. And I mean, I think everybody is safe to us, to have the same, or come to the same agreement that yes, there are worldwide symbols of what you would call hate. Okay, it has nothing to do with culture, has nothing to do with anything else other than to, you know, inflict fear and hate on other people. And the Confederate flag, not that this is like a political, podcast or anything, but like to some people, yeah, they're going to make it whatever they want. If they want to use it as a symbol as I'm a redneck and I'm from the South and whatever, and they want to use it as fear and hate, then yeah, they'll use it that way. If it's somebody that actually uses that just because it's their heritage or whatever, so be it. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many worse things that could be going on. You know, and you're gonna like criticize somebody for that. I mean, it's funny that you, like I said, that you actually brought this up because those were some of the raffle prizes at Jesse's event, and Jesse was so nervous when he had to raffle those off because he kind of made a little announcement. Was like, you guys, I know these were recently done at another event, and somebody got offended. They're just stickers. So can we please keep and
Yeah.
everybody was a super like, and our group or the group of people that were there were super good sport about it. It was actually comical. They were all fine. And the next sheet he brought up was the American flag, and there are people going, "Oh, now I'm offended. That's a symbol of hate and oppression," and everybody's laughing, and
It's
it was
great.
it was funny because it's like they're actually being able to be tongue in cheek about something and just let it be,
Yeah,
you
which is
know.
kind of how my post was. I mean, it took me a week before I decided I'd actually address it, because most of the time, like, I just don't want to engage with people online when it comes to just stupid little pissing matches or anything like that. So I was just like, I kind of want to address it at the same time because, I did hear, like, I got text messages and stuff like that. And it's not like I'm, out there trying to get rich selling $10 Confederate flag sticker sheets. It's just I know some good old boys, and some good old boys have wanted some Confederate flag stickers. And I'll be honest with you, those are the number one selling product that we have. We have sold more Confederate
But
flag sticker sheets than any other product that we have.
but I'm gonna make this clear, and I'm gonna, because there's more, there's more than just. I know we just keep talking about the Confederate flag. I mean, clearly, there's other decals that you have made. Not only the Confederate flag, you have the American flag. You have a sticker sheet that's got Mexican flags on it. You got a sticker sheet that's got Canadian flags. And it was actually pretty funny because Dan Perkins was like, "I'm more offended by seeing that Canadian flag right next to the American flag
Oh
than
yeah,
anything."
there's a lot, dude. There's a lot
And
of people up here that like the whole Canadian thing's a joke, but everybody's like cool about it. It's like I feel like you can't have that kind of joking around with like Mexico or anything because then all of a sudden you're racist and whatnot. But like the Canadian flag, like it's funny. But for me, it's like, dude, just there's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage, and
exactly.
I'm in the business of helping people customize their vehicles to where it reflects their personality and their individual tastes, and I think that's a great thing. You see all kinds of different builds in this hobby, and each one of them you can tell that people put some of their self into it, and it'll be whether
Oh
it's
yeah.
like a little like scale tap out sticker or something, like you can tell what that dude's other interests are and whatnot, so I mean that's what I do, and I don't necessarily make I don't know I struggle being a positive person a lot of time, but and I think a lot of it has to do with just dealing with issues like with this guy because like there's always just some sort of BS thing going on that I'm involved in that I gotta try and squash, and what's weird is I don't really feel like it's something I'm doing. It's just somebody just has a chip on their shoulder, and I know there's some people that it might be like jealousy that that person gets to work in such and such industry or whatever, so they hate on them a little bit, or I think a lot of like trolls and haters are actually just fueled by jealousy, and I don't feel like that's just something that people say to like make themselves feel better. That's like truly something that I think is it's sad, and jealous people are the haters and the trolls, and
Well, that's always how it is.
yeah, yeah, for sure, and it's just like, man, you guys are so miserable, and like, I don't understand, like, with this dude, like, how does he expect that to play out when I do see him down there next time? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
how is
because
this
I
dude? I mean, he was so nice to my face and then pulls that little stunt. It's like, I'll be amazed if the guy can even look me in the eye or anything. I mean, it's just
well,
such a bizarre situation.
it's because what I said earlier, that I think in his mind, he already thought it was going to go a certain way, and when it didn't go a certain way, it was one of those. Now he's on the fly trying to figure out how to save face and kind of like pretend like it never happened.
Yeah, because
And
he wanted to start shit. Like you could tell, like he was like, "Feel free to share," like this is gonna turn into some big outrageous thing, and then the guy gets, hammered on by 50 people telling him what an idiot he is. So it's kind of like just a funny thing to me that you encounter things like this when you're actually trying to do some good. I mean, yes, I there is some business motivation behind it, obviously, because it's new customer
mhm,
base, it's a new shop, and I'm there to represent our products and whatnot and offer them. And so there is that, but also I didn't have to donate any prizes. It wasn't asked of me. It was something that I volunteered to do, because I wanted to give back and let people win some stuff and put some smiles on some faces. That's ultimately the goal. This is never going to be something I get rich doing. It's just I enjoy doing it, and it's weird that people will actually seek you out and try and make it difficult for you when you were trying to bring something to the table to the hobby. And to make that connection with that flag was really bizarre because, I mean, at one point there's a guy that I had done some RC like name race decals, and
mhm,
his family's from Palestine. He's as American as could
mhm.
be, but his folks came over and his heritage is Palestinian. So I make him his sheets and, with the flag on it and everything and give them to him. What would this guy do? Like, make the connection, like, dude, SOR supports terrorists because they sold a guy Palestinian flag decals and Palestinians are all terrorists, and like saying that all Southerners are racists because they have the rebel flag. I mean,
And
it's such a leap, and it's
be,
it's strange that someone
because
goes
it,
to those lengths.
yeah, it's because like I said, they're trying to make a bigger deal out of something that's not really there. And we see it every day. And it not only happens with like the products and stuff we put on our cars, because I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, they see somebody running a certain brand, and all of a sudden they're ripping on them for running that brand, and oh, and it's like, and some of it is tongue in cheek. Like if you can actually be a good sport about it and actually go back and forth, there's no harm, no foul.
Right.
But it's the ones that like straight up like already start assuming this, that, and the other. Um, it's just kind of like, it kind of blows my mind. Like there was a guy on our MKS team who needed some parts for a crawler, and I chimed in on our message group and said, "Hey, I got this, this, this," and he's like, "Do you have anything that's not, because I had a set of axles that had, I think, Vanquish lockouts and C's and knuckles," and I said, "Yeah, I'm not using these. I'll send you the whole thing, I said, basically for the cost of the Vanquish stuff, I said, I'm not even worried about the plastic housings. You can, I
Mm-hmm.
said, like, $80 ship, I don't care." And he's like, "Well, do you have anything that's not Vanquish?" And I'm like, "What's the matter with Vanquish? Like, it's a part. Most people drool to get stuff like that, for a
Right.
deal."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, well, around here, where I live," and he was back east somewhere. Um, he goes, "They think that you're a sellout and you have all this money to blow on this, that, and that." I'm going, really? I was like, I'm like, and this isn't to like say anything like, like I'm trying to think, like this isn't like a sponsorship like thing or anything or talk or whatever, but it's like there's some people that buy certain parts not because they want to spend the money on it or whatever, but because they want quality parts or they want something or they're going for a certain look or whatever it may be,
Right.
and that's all it comes down to. I mean, why? I don't know. To me, I think it's kind of comical to hear, "Oh, no, no, they're gonna judge me if I run these parts," and I'm going, really? You might need to find a new
That's
group of people to go crawling with.
Dude, that's
I
so
mean,
lame. Like those people like that get cut out of my life so fast.
and yeah, I mean, it's just like it's just bizarre. I mean, but it goes that way. Not like I said, not just with what we put on the cars, but it goes with that with like events. Do you know how many times after an event or something happens at an event or whatever, people take to Facebook and go, "Oh, well, this was horrible, and this was this, and oh, can you believe this? They're going to make this rule, and they're going to do this rule." And I don't want to sound like a dictator or mean when I say this, but it's like, you know what? That's their event that they're doing. If that's how they want to do it, that's how they're going to do it. You know, if you want to make it a certain way, why don't you look into hosting an event and you do it the way you want to do it? Yes, there's some people that are more level-headed and they listen to what, the people that go to their events, like, oh, did you like this? Did you like that? How was this? How was that? They look at stuff that happened. If it's like an annual event, they look at what happened last year. It's called statistics, and they look at all the statistics and they go, okay, this worked, this didn't. Let's modify this. Let's not modify that, and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it almost seems like no matter what you do for some of these people, they're going to find something to complain about and just be
Mm-hmm.
miserable about. And it's kind of discouraging to some people. Like we had a local group, GSRCC, who stepped up and started putting on scale endurances. And this was about, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. It was like, because like the first one I ever went to was number 4. And I think they're on number the high 20s right now. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they went on a 2-year hiatus because they finally couldn't take the criticism online anymore. They were so over everybody complaining about the events,
Mm-hmm.
about, oh, this person cheated and you guys didn't do anything. Oh, how come I didn't get more points when I clearly have more scale accessories on my. I mean, it's just like petty stuff. It's like, really? They're doing something to get people out of the house to have a good time. And I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest part is I don't think people realize. I mean, you probably know more than I do. I'll be honest, I've never really put on an event. I've helped host numerous events. I've helped set up numerous events. I've helped be a sponsor of numerous events, but I've never actually held an event. So I don't know all of what goes into doing it, but from some of my friends, talking to some of my friends that actually have done it, and talking to some of the bigger guys that do this, people don't realize it takes a lot of time and money to put on an event properly so that if something happens and you get the absolute most worst case scenario, you're covered. Like a lot of people don't realize, that's why some of these events they charge for they charge an entrance fee because they had to pull a permit and get insurance because if they didn't, public lands will come slap them with a fine
Yeah.
or whoever it is, you know. And if the worst actually absolutely happens, like where somebody slips and hurts themselves and you didn't have insurance and they try to sue you, well, now you're in trouble. You're facing legal issues that you ultimately didn't have to. For all you're trying to do is just do something nice for somebody, or to get to just do an event.
Yeah.
Because it really takes individuals and companies to do these kinds of things, so that way people have stuff to go to. I mean, there's tons of people that just fun crawl. They get 5, 6, 10 people together. They go find a trailhead, a lake, um, a park, whatever it may be, and they go and hit it. But there's some of these that are actually legit events and big things go into them. It's kind of, like going to any major event. Name a concert, a movie, um, a sports venue, any of those things you go to. The reason why the prices are what they are is because there's more to it than just going to a place.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things too, I think, is especially when it comes to like behavior wise and the taking to Facebook and stuff. You know, for one, I don't understand how somebody could be so miserable that they would try and like, take down what you're trying to do or find fault with you. For trying to make something better or create fun. Like that doesn't exactly make sense to me. But if things like that keep happening, eventually people are going to get sick of it and they're going to back out. And You know,
Well,
I
that's
already
it.
hear people complaining, you know, saying, "Oh, we don't get any support. How do you guys get so and so to sponsor this event? You know, how did you do that?" You know, and a lot of people just expect like sponsors to just come to them out of the woodwork and be like, "Here we are. You know, we want to give you stuff." But you know, I think from a promoter standpoint too, sometimes they need to step in and police some of the people there or people that have attended, because man, that's a quick way to burn a lot of bridges and not want to go back. I mean, I can tell you right now, like as much as I like the people at that shop and I would like to go back and support another event that they're doing and donate product and whatnot, I can tell you right now, through no fault of their own and just this guy, I kind of don't want to, you know, and somebody else is going to come in maybe, and you know, social justice warrior takes to the keyboard again and you know decides to burn down another sponsor at an event. And you know, it doesn't take an incredibly smart person to realize that pretty quick people aren't going to support this hobby anymore because of people acting like jackasses online, you know. If like for groups, for example, you know, some groups on Facebook do giveaways and some other stuff, and I can tell you, you know, based on some of the comments that people leave and whatnot on some of these group pages and the way that they talk to each other, as a sponsor, I don't want to give anything to those people, you know? And so I think the community needs to come together and really start cracking down on the BS that happens, because I see it getting worse before it's going to get any better. You know, like page moderators, I think page moderators need to take, you know, if you're going to have a group or have a page or whatnot, take more of an active role and make it a place where it's fun for everybody. Get rid of the dickheads. That all it
Yeah,
does is
and
create
that's
issues for the hobby.
oh yeah, and like I said, there's nothing wrong, honestly, in my opinion, with a little tongue in cheek. You know, just like anything in life. You know,
Right.
if you're is like sports. I mean, there's people that enjoy the sport. You know, whether it's football, hockey, baseball, soccer, tennis, golf, whatever it is. You know, obviously you're going to like what you like and you're going to not like what you like, or they naturally have a rivalry with something or whatever. And there's some people that do the tongue in cheek, poke fun, do whatever. I'll admit I do that here and there with some of my buddies.
Right.
And but we go back and forth. It's no harm, no foul, because we know at the end of the day, we're still buddies, we're still friends, we're still, good, we still get along, we're still whatever. We're not going to take it to heart. Then you got the people that are like gung ho crazy, and it's like to them, it's like life or death. So they take the littlest thing out of context and they turn it into some crazy, and it's just like, and it blows my mind, and it's like, it's just getting to the point where you never know. And I think it makes some people a little standoffish to say anything, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say anything because these people are going to get pissed off and I don't know what's going to happen, and then something doesn't get said or somebody's opinion, you know, never gets heard. And, all because they're starting to worry too much about, oh, is this person going to flip out?
Yeah,
And
there may be
it's
legitimate
getting,
posts and you know helpful hints and whatnot, and you know like good information that people want to put, but they don't get involved in any of these conversations on the pages because they know it's just going to turn into this big pissing match and people are going to freak out.
yeah. And I think the other thing I want to say too is, like, before we get too, like, into all of this, is I don't want people to hear this podcast and go, oh my gosh, there's a lot of negativity on this one. It's I'm not. I mean, we're not trying to be negative about everything. We're just trying to talk about what things that actually happen.
Right.
And
And
it'd be
steps
nice to
everybody
get
can take
some.
to make it all better.
Exactly. And it could, and we'd like to hear. We try to be as engaging as possible. So if you guys want to chime in and say anything, feel free to message us. And let us know. It'd be interesting to see. Like, I'd be really interested to see how things of this nature are on, like, the East Coast. Like, because I see what happens in a lot of California, Nevada, and the West Coast kind of like events and what goes on, but I don't see a lot of what goes on the East Coast because I mean I got a handful of friends over there, but like I don't have a ton of friends over there, so I'm not as in tune with what goes on. But I mean, I think, kind of like you said, it's something that happens, almost anywhere you go, and everybody handles it differently. Um, Ultimately, at the end, that's kind of like why I got into RC. I got into it as something to leave everything else behind. We
Mm-hmm.
go all day long hearing about politics. We go all day long hearing about, oh, this happened. Um, the stock market's crashing. You got, this, bombing, that shooting, this stabbing. It's like this is supposed to be the thing where you get away from it. Not to say like sweep everything under the rug, but you take one moment out of your schedule or your life to go do something fun, to create memories, to laugh, have a good time with your family and friends. But it seems no matter what it is in life, and it just might just be the way it goes, which is sad.
Yeah.
Everything, the outside stuff gets drug in, and it's just it's just crazy. I mean, these times we're in right now are pretty crazy because I mean, I got friends all different kinds of walks of life, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I got, and I get along with them all because at the end of the day, you're still somebody trying to do whatever in the hobby, and you have friends in the hobby, and you all want to do the same thing at the end of the day, you know? And that's what it, should be about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's, I don't know. I can't put myself in the same frame of mind as people that are like that. Um, I don't know. It's just a really it's frustrating because it's not necessary, but I just RC is one of those things where like it should be like what you're saying, like an escape, and you couldn't have said it more perfectly than you did. Like you said it perfectly. It's supposed to take you away from all the drama and the BS, and I I don't think it's cool to rob other people of their experience by dragging your own personal stuff into it. Like we have a zero drama policy with our club, and it gets hard because it's like how do you still create a fun atmosphere but at the same time put your foot down and kind of not have it turn into some sort of a free for all. There's got to be rules in place and people have to follow them, and if they don't, then they're gone. And like one of the things I don't tolerate is people knocking on other people's rigs. You don't
Hmm.
say anything bad when somebody posts a picture of the rig. Like joke to your buddies, do whatever you want to do, but don't rob that person of their proud moment of showing what their paycheck and the hours of their time went into. Don't take that away from them when they're showing something like that online. And it's a completely different type of person that will take time out of their day to attack something that they don't like to see. And I don't get that because, like, for example, you and I were talking about football earlier. I've lived up here since 2011, and I've been to one Seahawks game. And when I was there, I didn't have a particularly great time because I don't like big crowds of people. The people that were sitting in front of us were kind of inconsiderate, and really didn't get to see a whole lot. And I don't take to social media platforms and start going, Seahawks games and NFL games are bad. You don't want to go because it's like, it wasn't for me. I don't like it. If somebody is going to ask me, I'll give them my opinion, but I'm not going to just force it down people's throats every chance that I get. And that's what I don't understand, like why someone will put the time and effort into casting a shadow over something that someone else is doing. And it's got to be either sadness or jealousy because happy people don't do that. Happy people are like, right on, dude, good job, that's awesome. And they offer encouragement. And I know that the world isn't sunshine and full of roses and stuff, but you know what? This hobby certainly can be if you let it.
Hmm. Well, it's anything could be that way if you let it. I mean, I know we bring up a lot of the same stuff, but I mean, I always laugh. I know I missed it tonight because I worked a little late. I don't know. I'm sure they did. If Axial did their 6 p.m., live check-in, 'cause I noticed that was like a thing they've been doing on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it seems like they'll post something, they'll do anything, and there's everybody rips on it for something, because
Oh,
it's
they
not the
take a
way.
beating, don't they? The best event that anyone puts on, like if you want to hold an event, model it after Axial Fest. But that event gets beaten so hard online that I'm surprised they do it.
And that's what I'm saying. And it's going to take, eventually, it's going to be the point where they're just going to be like, you know what? What are we doing this for?
A
You
bunch
know?
of unappreciative jerks, and it's like half the
I
people
mean,
can't afford or aren't going to go to it anyways, so why even say anything if you're not planning on going? Like, shut
well,
up.
see, and then that's the other thing, and that's the other thing that's like hard too, because it's like, I don't want to see that happening, because like, I can already tell you right now, Pro Line by the Fire is going to be another big event that happens every year. It's going to
Yeah.
be the new thing to do. It's growing in popularity, because what I don't think what people realize is this is the third year, or
Yeah.
is it the fourth year?
I think third year.
This is the third year they've been doing this, but this is really the first year that it's been like the thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with other stuff that's gone on. Yes, we know Axial, not just Axial, but other brands got bought out um, when the whole Hobbyco thing went down. And that's going to change stuff. We all get it. And I think what people forget in the long run is most of these companies, there's somebody else out there telling them what to do. There's somebody bigger saying, this is what you need to do. This is what we're doing. No, this is what we're doing. And instead of them realizing that, hey, it's a bigger, whatever, it's a bigger force out of their hand, like out of their reach, out of their hand, they have no power to do anything. Instead of like ripping on them for this, it's like, hey, this is what the bigger company wants to do. It's the unfortunate thing. And I think the reason why people forget about all that is I Axial actually was more freelance to do whatever they wanted, or not so much do whatever they wanted, but they had more control of their company when Hobbyco was, their main
Right.
distributor. Once they were not with Hobbyco, Horizon now, calls the shots. This is what we're going to do. This is not what we're going to do, which is they have every right to do it, whether or not I agree with it or disagree with it, whether or not you agree with it or disagree with it, whether or not the whole RC community agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. They're going to do what they feel is right for their company. It's the
Right.
same. It's just it's just the nature of business, and unfortunately, that's just the way everything is. RC for these companies is not just a thing to do; it's business.
And
So
I think that one of the reasons why Axial's always been so appealing and Axial Fest is so appealing, though, is that it was made up of enthusiasts and people that actually did
mhm.
genuinely care about the hobby and care about their brand, and that was reflected in everything that they did. Now with
Well,
Horizon
they
behind the wheel, I think we're lucky to even be getting this.
Oh, that I'm 100% in agreement with you on that one. They're we're getting what we can and be appreciative of it. That's all you can do. And Axial, honestly, like you said, was the first one. I want to say I think they were the first ones to actually brand that we are a lifestyle or market to that we are a lifestyle company, not just a company doing this. It's a lifestyle.
Exactly.
Um, and I think that's why they take it so hard. And everybody knows, like everything, they're one of the giants. And I think they see the giants starting to stumble and fall, and you get all these other people coming out of the woodworks trying to do something. Now, not to take away from any other events that are going on, like I said, like Pro Line by the Fire. Um, the other thing you got to look at is it's another different kind of giant throwing a you know, different but the same kind of event.
Mm-hmm.
It's a multi-day event. It's a camping style event. But the difference you have with Proline is they don't. Well, they do make cars, but they're not holding the event for just their cars. Like, Axial holds their event because
Right.
it's supposed to be for their vehicles. Now, I know people take that out of context because they're like, oh, well, you know, this person makes this hop up part and this person makes this hop up part, but they're telling me I can't run it. And it's like, it's a gray area. And I think they're doing the
Yeah.
best they can to address that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's certain ways they're doing it that I think is actually a cool thing. I've always said from the beginning, um, like you look at a Jeepers Jamboree, okay, for example, one of the biggest events, and if I'm not mistaken, they have them all over the place, but we see them a lot here in the Sierras, and at Jeepers Jamboree, you go in a Jeep. You don't bring your Forerunner, you don't bring your Chevy, you don't bring your Ford, you know, you're there in your Jeep because it's for Jeepers. That's why they put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's what they want to say, then if that's how they want to do it, that's how they want to do it. Now, there are some events such as Easter Jeep Safari, which has just happened, and you get the people that do the like for instance, they got the full size invasion that goes every year, but they do it. I wouldn't say, at least from my standpoint and from how I see it, it's not so much they're doing it out of like despite, like, oh well, you know, f you, I'm bringing my car anyways. It's more like I think they get a group of them get together and say, hey, look, you know, we don't have Jeeps, but Moab's a cool place to crawl. Let's do a little, we'll get together ourselves and we'll go and have a good time. We're not going to take away from what's happening, but we're going to do our thing. And it kind of turned into its own event within an event, which is, kind of cool. And I'm not saying that's what everybody needs to do, for these events like Axial Fest or Pro Line by the Fire. But the point is, it's always going to be what you make it.
Yeah.
So just have a good time. And honestly, if they do make a rule, like um, I always said when the whole thing with the whole aftermarket chassis thing came out, my only thing about that was most of these people or companies making these aftermarket chassis, they're making them based off of their rig. So should you really harp on them too much? No. But if you want to say, hey, look, you want to run an aftermarket chassis? Cool. You just can't enter to win this concourse because we want to
Right.
see built on our chassis. Not nothing against the
Sure.
aftermarket, just we want to see that, which is, in my opinion, I don't see what the big deal is because it's like, okay, they're not saying you can't bring your car, they're just saying you can't enter in this, which is totally fair. And if you want to play by the rules, then you know adjust accordingly and you know show up to play. So
Yeah,
if
because it's
that's your
better
if that's your
not
thing,
playing at all.
exactly. Well, it's almost like it's like, I know there's a saying, and I'll probably butcher it. It's like, you know, having 10% of something is better than having 100% of nothing.
Right.
So if you can go and at least have a good time, okay, maybe you're not there winning, and if you in or you can't compete in this, which is, oh well, that's the choice you make because you chose to do that. Now, you know, um, if you want to actually compete in that, well, then adjust some things or make a specific rig just for that and go and do it. Um, and that's actually the thing that I've thought has been pretty crazy this year. This is probably the first year I've noticed a lot of people, and like I said, this is basically more directed towards the West Coast. You used to see a lot of people, oh, my Axial Fest build, oh, da 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 da. And this is the first year I've noticed there hasn't been the big hype on my Axial Fest build.
That's funny that you mentioned that because you're right. I haven't seen any of that, honestly.
And it's kind of sad because I don't want to see, and I'll be honest, I got friends that still work with Axial and Horizon, and I talk to them every once in a while. And I don't want to see something that was started. Yes, we know it was great. Yes, we know it got really big. I don't want to see it die because too
Yeah.
many people just give up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's because it's like who's to say that won't happen to the next big event? Let's say enough people are like, yeah, I don't feel like going to Proline by the Fire, and then that fizzles out. It's you got to just support everything, or if you don't support it, that's fine, but don't make a big stink about it.
Yeah, be quiet about it, because man, I don't know. If I was the Axial guys, I mean, seeing the beating they've taken from people, I'd be like, we're not doing this ever again. Like, I don't have whatever they have in them. I don't have that in me to where you have such a thick skin you can let all that stuff roll off.
Well, I'm actually a little different than you on that one. I actually grew a thick skin based on just like, life events and things that have happened, not only in RC, but in like my personal life. And that's kind of made me realize that, you're not going to be able to please everybody and you're not always going to be able to make everybody happy. So at the end of the day, and this is just how I, handle everything, and maybe this will help somebody listening. But what I always tell myself, as cheesy as it sounds, at the end of the day, if I'm happy with myself, I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I feel that like if something should happen to me overnight, I can say, I'm happy with how my life is, I'm happy with the things I've done with it, and I'm happy with, you know, that I'm doing what I feel is right by me. Now I know everybody's going to take that into their own context and say, like, oh well, at the end of the day, as long as I did, whatever, I'm happy. Fine. If that's what you truly feel, then do by you. Everybody's going to ultimately do by them, and it doesn't matter, if you feel you're right or wrong or they're right or wrong. It's at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's
That's
kind of
just
like,
human nature.
yeah, it's kind of like protesting. Like, honestly, I don't think one person holding up an anti-abortion sign has like convinced people to be like, oh, dude, you know what? I just saw this sign down the corner and it said that abortions are bad, so now I'm against it. Like, I'm sorry, but like people's opinions aren't swayed like that. Like
No,
that's just not how it works. You're not gonna change their mind about something. It's just that isn't gonna happen.
no. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure that there are a small percentage of people that do get persuaded by that. But the other thing, too, is I've always said it's always, I'm a big believer that mob mentality rules. If you see a lot of people gravitating to one kind of thing, they're going to do it maybe because they think that's what the rest of the majority is doing, or that's what their friends are doing, or oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's this, you know. And like I said, nothing wrong with it. That's kind of human nature.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you think, hey, maybe I don't really believe this way, or oh, I don't really like something that way, like oh, you know, I mean, I'll get crap every once in a while from some of my friends that are like, I can't believe, excuse me, you're still, that into Axial. And I said, you know what? I said, for me, it's different. I took on that whole thing about a lifestyle, and that's why to me, it's a big deal because it appeals to me. It's what I'm comfortable with. And why, it's like that saying, why fix something that's not broken? So to me, it's not broken. So why am I going to fix it? Now that might be different for somebody else. Somebody else might be like, oh, now that they're this way, I'm never buying another car again. And that's fine. But you don't have to sit there and shove that down everybody's throat. Because I don't, I know I talk about it a lot, but I don't feel that I shove it down everybody's throat. I'm not online seeing somebody post up, a Vitara car or a TRX4 or, you know, uh, uh, I can't think of the other one right now. An HPI Venture, and I'm not sitting there on someone's thread going, now this car would have worked a lot better if you went with Axial. Oh, if you're actually running Axial gears, it would. I don't do that because I
Yeah,
know
no.
everybody's got their own taste. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
and no, you're right. I kind of
so
gave
I
up
mean,
on offering my opinion on anything like that. When I see people asking like for recommendations or help anymore, like I just scroll on past. I don't even bother.
well, I understand what you're saying. The way I usually and this is just my 2 cents on how I address people that ask questions like that. I always go, look, this is how I would set it up, but ultimately you're going to have to ask yourself, how do you want to do it? I think I may have mentioned this before, but we actually got messaged on Two Chains a while back, and somebody asked us, they're like, hey, we're just getting into this. I want to start spending money modding my truck. I see you guys have all this, that, and the other done to it. I've been thinking, or at least talking to a couple people around me, that if I put this lift kit on my truck, it'll articulate better, it'll work better, and they go, is that true? Well, I'm not going to sit out there and just like, whether or not I agree with it, bash on the person. I ultimately said, look, that might be what works for one person. That might not be what works for you. What you ultimately need to ask yourself at the end of the day is, how do you want your truck to perform? Are you trying to build a performance crawler? Are you trying to build something that's like a crawling machine that's just going to tackle any obstacle you put in front of it? Or are you trying to build something to get a certain look? Because at one point, one aspect is going to override the other. It's really, in my opinion, really hard to make a perfect scale wheeler that also crawls really well.
Right.
It just doesn't work. It's the same exact reason why I think buggies were invented, or why people started crawling buggies, because if you wanted a machine that was a crawling machine, you built a tube buggy because you don't have any fenders to worry about, you don't have any body panels to worry about. You can just, you build it to basically be all tire and the cockpit, and you boom, point and shoot, and it goes. Whereas you try to do what you're doing in a buggy with a, a modded Jeep that's just got a lift kit and tires, and that's it. Yeah, that's not going to perform the same. But to some people, the one look might look better than the other. That's why my number one answer is, everybody needs to figure out the route they want to go, and then just achieve it to
Yeah.
whatever their heart desires. Whether that's like, they're like, yeah, you're right, I want to make this work. Like, I don't want to hinder the performance too much, but at the same time, I'm willing to sacrifice the look. Um, that's why my personal go to is, once I get a rig kind of set up the way I want it, or I put the body on it, the one I'm kind of like leaning towards running. Once I mount it, I try to see where the tires go. Do they contact the fender? Do they contact the bumper? Do they contact the inner tire links? Do they, like, how's it all work? And then if I see, okay, it hits here, hits there, doesn't hit here, whatever, then I address it accordingly. I'm okay with hogging out a fender well to make the tire clear better, but at the same time, I try to make it somewhat like of a factory look. So, like, the Blazer is a prime example. My yellow Blazer, the front tires were hitting the fenders. So I actually went to the outside where the actual fender started to flare out, and I just followed that and made the same shape. So now when you look at it, it looks like a cut fender, but it doesn't look like a crazy cut fender, like one like you'd be like, yeah, I'd never see somebody, you know,
Right.
hack this much of the fender out of there. It was done, I guess, tastefully, if you want to use a word,
Mm-hmm.
and it still works. Is it the best crawling rig I have? No, but it would have been. It's a lot better than if I would have if I would have tried to dictate, separate, pulling the suspension down so that way it was away from the body, because then you're making it too top heavy. So you ultimately, at the end of the day, have to ask yourself, what is your end goal, and how can you achieve it?
Yeah, looks or performance. And the thing is that they're really, yes, there's certain things or modifications that work better than others, but at the same time, there is no right or wrong in this hobby, like, and I think with something like, let's say, a dude's asking for advice on shocks, and he goes and he buys, some 397 millimeter gold plated Kings or something and throws those on. It's like, cool, go for it. The guy shouldn't be like torn down because that's what he wanted to see on his rig and what he thought was cool. Like, you don't want to take that experience away from him. It's there is no right or wrong to how people are putting these together, and I think that
Oh yeah.
the criticism of that needs to stop. And I don't know. I mean, I know this, it does kind of sound like we've had like a little bit of a negative tone to the show, but honestly, it is stuff that can make the hobby more fun for everybody. And if everybody just kind of stop and think, before they decide they're going to type something or whatever, think about the consequences or how it's going to react, someone's going to react, then, put some thought into it. But there's also guys out there that just their enjoyment is seeing people squirm, and they're going to sit there and post stuff or whatever. But, I think that this hobby can be the one thing that can bring everybody together to enjoy themselves, no matter who they are, what their background is, race, religion, anything like that. It's all something that everybody can enjoy, and that's something you would see at Axial Fest. You'd see people from all walks of life. You had the country boys, you had people that obviously lived in the city, and this is their yearly outdoor excursion, which is rad. And just there's you don't want to rob that from anybody. And Axial Fest was a great place to see that sort of thing and see like the different demographics that are within the RC hobby. And there's no reason really why it can't be something that's made fun for everybody, so that you don't have these things, like we were saying with moderators and stuff like that. Like if there's something you don't like, or somebody did something that you're like, oh man, that's not going to work or whatever, if it's something that can cause like injury or damage to property, or that dude's going to smoke his ESC if he goes to power it up, and had some questions about soldering it up, like if that's the case, like by all means say something, and guide that person in the right direction. But you don't have to sit there and hammer on them about, oh, you're an idiot or this or that. Like, I don't see how that has any type of place in this hobby. And with our stuff, like I said, it's something that I personally don't stand for. And, I've caught in some flack over it, but I'm also big on people trying to behave right, and like taking your time out of your day to do something negative is just it's silly, and it's a waste, and you're not really going to accomplish anything in the long run anyways. Because are you really any happier for trashing on some dude's rig on Facebook? Like, do you feel better now? Like, I doubt it. So why are you devoting any kind of time towards something like that? There's a really funny story real quick that one of my friends that works in an RC business had messaged me. He got an email from a guy, and the dude was mad at him, like legitimately mad at him for them advertising so much. He wrote them to tell them that he will now buy products from other people just to spite the fact of how much he sees their advertisements. That made him mad.
Well, you know what? When you're a business, and this is what doesn't make any sense. Okay, the whole reason why you're in business is because you're trying to sell something. You're trying to move product. If you don't advertise it, nobody sees it, nobody knows you have it, nobody's going to buy it. So, like, I don't know. That kind of blows my mind because
It's
it's
like,
like,
what was the goal
so
there? you know?
so what are you trying to no? So what I'm saying is, so how do you buy your parts? Do you do you look to see what's the most popular thing, and then you find something completely on the other end of the spectrum that you had to search for that has no tried and true um, testing,
Some
has
people
no
will do
real.
that.
I don't know. To me, that's kind of crazy. I mean,
I've seen guys do it. It's nuts.
I'm not saying be a lemming and do what everybody else is doing
Right.
to run off the cliff, but at the same time, you know, for instance, you're building a car or you're building you're building your crawler, and somebody's like, hey, I want to get a decent servo. What should I get? Now, I know I'm a little biased, but you're gonna get confronted with like your main companies. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna hear ProTech, you're gonna hear High Tech, you're gonna hear Fataba, you're gonna hear Savox. I mean, I don't know. I always say MKS, but like I said, I'm biased. Um, but you're gonna hear main companies. Okay, now that should tell you, okay, if those within those names you've heard those, it's a safe bet if you go with any one of them, you're going to be fine
Yeah.
because it's a name that you've heard of. Now, if you buy something on eBay that says world's best servo and you're like, and you ask around and people are like, I've never even heard of that. It could be good, but it might not because if it's not popular or at least it hasn't been heard of, that kind of tells you either A, it's really new or B, it's really bad. And, but that's got to be also a risk you're willing to take. I mean, I know there's some people that run Integy motors and they have really good luck with them. And I know there's other people that are like, it's Integy, I'm not buying it.
Right. Yeah,
So,
no, that
um,
absolutely happens.
so yeah, so I mean, ultimately, if you're going to be into building something and you're looking for any kind of recommendation, just kind of see what everybody else is running. And just because one person decides to run, a Holmes hobby setup, or one person decides to run a Tekin setup, or some person decides to run Hobby Wing, doesn't make any of them better than the other. It just means they've been in the business usually long enough to get enough of a fan base or review to have people create some sort of you know, standing on, how reliable or unreliable or how well a product works. So,
Yeah. And that's hard when you're a new hobbyist coming into this. You ask for an opinion and you get just bombarded by so many different choices and whatnot, you know? And I think a lot of information people need to take with a grain of salt online because, you know, it'll be like their bro or let's say a company they're sponsored by or whatever. And it's pretty obvious that that's what they're pushing, you know? So, I mean, you see that, but you need to ask the questions. Like if somebody tells you, like I saw this the other day, a guy told a newer hobbyist told another guy who's brand new to it, who is just looking to upgrade his RTR, was like, oh, you need to buy one of these $20 servos from Amazon. It's perfect. It'll do everything you need. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, I mean, okay, but there's a lot better options out there, and maybe consider the source a little bit of the people that you're asking this information from. If it's some dude that's been doing this for a year and all he's ever ran are $20 Amazon servos and he tells you that's what you need to get, like consider the source a little bit, you know what I mean? Like just be kind of like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I should ask somebody else, maybe I should just quietly browse forums and pages to see, you know, what other people are using in their rigs, and ask the questions of guys, you know, that you know have been around a while, or different people or builders within the community, or even companies reach out to them and talk to them about it too. And you know, you'll get anymore. It's weird because you'll get like a legit answer maybe 50% of the time if you're looking for advice or some sort of a product recommendation.
well, the other hard part too is like you kind of said, you know, and that's why I said like I was biased with the servo thing, because I am a team driver for MKS, but that's going to also be a given. Like it's kind of it's like I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. It's kind of like don't totally disregard what somebody says just because they're sponsored by something. Because some
Right.
people they actually do really stand behind the products or the companies that sponsor them, which is there's nothing wrong with that. So if you're very supportive, and that's actually what your job is supposed to be, being a sponsoree of a company or product, is your job is to promote it. That's the whole point
Right.
of them sponsoring you. So I mean, you are going to obviously say the company first, but when it comes down to it, if you're trying to just give honest advice, I've said it numerous times. I'll push the companies that I'm sponsored by first, but if they're ultimately just looking for a simple answer like, "Hey, what's a good motor for crawling?" 35 turn. If you want to go a
Yeah.
little slower, 45 turn.
Yeah.
Anything, go find any company in that parameter, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that
You
fits
know,
your budget and go for it. Yeah.
yes, obviously,
No,
like I said, you're gonna
exactly. And
you're
and
gonna
I
push your companies.
yeah, which and you absolutely should. And this is where it gets tricky because up until a few years ago, you could get valuable advice from a sponsored driver, because if they were sponsored, that means they've been around for a number of years and have earned that privilege of being sponsored by different brands. So it's obviously going to be somebody with experience in the hobby. Now, there's a lot of companies within, even as back as far as like the last 4 or 5 years, where they'll sponsor anybody and everybody. And so now, where you did have a good, reliable source before by being able to pick out who the seasoned or veteran drivers were, now you don't have that, because you can have a guy who's brand new into the hobby and he has to have somebody solder his own stuff up for him because he can't, and he's out there telling everybody, this is what you need to run, this is what you need to run. Like, most likely that is the last person you need to be listening to, So I think it is really important to consider the source when you're trying to get this information, because there is a lot of bad information floating around out there.
Well, I think what's really funny and to me, I always laugh every time I think about this. Um, so Michelle's dad is a prime example of how somebody who knows nothing should always respond. We'll be at an event, he'll have his rig out there. He'll be doing something, right? Thing, works pretty well, looks pretty good, whatever. And the people ask him a question. Oh man, that thing's crawling really well. What motor are you running? He has no clue. And he goes, you're gonna have to ask the person who built it. And he straight up says it. I didn't build it. I said
That's
what
awesome.
he goes, I wanted it to look a certain way, like I gave my input, but I leave it up to Adam. He builds it. So you're gonna have to ask him what it has. And then which is kind of funny because it's like, yeah, he doesn't know, but see, he just knows ultimately he went with somebody he can trust to build a rig that's gonna work enough for him to have a good time. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And if you see somebody, like I said, because like that, like the reason why I thought of that story was when you said the thing about somebody who doesn't know how to solder. He kind of fits that parameter. He's never soldered any of the parts on his rig, but you know, that's just you. It's just one of those things. He's more of a driver, not a builder, and I think that comes from being somebody like myself who's a little more of a builder than a driver.
Hmm.
Um, Not to say that I don't go out to events, but I'm just saying I build my own rigs and then take them out and have a good time.
Right.
Where he'd rather have somebody do it for him so he can just go out and have a good time.
And honestly, there's nothing wrong with either of those. Like, not a thing,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
no,
there's so many new people to the hobby that have legitimate questions, and man, they just get hammered on people by it, and it would be really awesome if that could stop. I don't know if it ever will, but I mean, because God, all it
honestly, it's
does is
like
just discourage people.
it's like everything. It honestly, it'll never stop. And I'm not saying that's like a just accept it that that's the way it's going to be and let bygones be bygones. But in a way, it's almost like it's going to be because it doesn't matter what it is in life. If there's a way or you know I guess determination to be the opposite. There's people that are rebellious. They're just like they see somebody liking a certain thing and they go, you know what? Just because some people like this, I'm not going to like it because I want to be different. Which I'm not saying is wrong. I'm just saying, there's those kinds of people that'll look for the bad or the rebellious side of anything just to get a rise out of people, and that's just the way people work. And it doesn't matter what you do to it. That's just what's going to happen. So ultimately, that's why said just do you. That's all you can be is just
Yeah,
yourself.
which is totally awesome. I mean, and that's how it should be. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a funny thing. Like, a lot of it is just people like to be heard, they like to be noticed, they want attention and recognition. And so, like, I always have respect for people, like, let's say, like with Michelle's dad, they're like, man, I don't know, I just drive the thing, that's it. Like, that's awesome to get like a straight up answer like that, instead of like dude, this is my chance to show this guy how much I think I actually know about everything, and just start spouting off. And you'll get that, but I always appreciate people that are just really honest and don't have like an ego or anything with the hobby, because that's not necessary. Is like, shit, I don't know, it's just, it works, that's all I care about. I don't know what oils in the shocks, it's like, I'm just having fun. Like, dude, great, that is awesome. Like, if you're enjoying yourself and having a good time, then more power to you, because this isn't forever. We're all gonna die. It's all, this is all gonna go away at some point. So you know what, if painting your body metal flake gold and running neon plastic yellow rims is your thing, then you know what, do it. And that nobody should tell you not to. That's your thing. I mean, like I had said, there are legitimate concerns or whatever, and I think that as somebody who, if you consider yourself to be an ambassador of the hobby, offer your 2 cents worth. If they're gonna damage equipment possibly by what they're doing or anything, but there's no need to make anybody feel dumb about it either. I mean, that's I don't know. And I see that all of this as fixable problems. Seeing moderators tighten up, just people policing themselves a little bit better. And I think you could create an enjoyable environment out of this. I know sometimes things feel like they're so big that it'll never change and it's always going to be this way. All right, cool. That absolutely is the case sometimes. And me being a realist, a lot of times I kind of look at things the way that you were describing, where it's like, hey, you know what, you're not going to change anybody's opinion. Trying to argue about stuff is kind of futile, and just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And that's an okay outlook too. But I think that you can try and make the hobby a better place for people. And it's the guys like Jesse Ham and the guys like you and Elio, and you see people, Mark from Crawl for a Cure, for example, too. Like, these are all good causes and people that are trying to make this hobby a better place for everybody. And don't try to fault anybody for doing that. Don't drag them through the mud, or you know we're lucky to have people like this in this hobby that care like
Mhm.
that, so that there are fun events to go to, so there are entertaining YouTube channels to watch, and there are people that are reputable that you can get advice from. And just all of it can be so enjoyable if you just let it. And I would love to see that. And I think that you can start by, when you do, if you do events or within your club or whatever, get involved, help out, get involved, and work to try and make it a better place, because there's no reason it can't be. The RC hobby isn't for tough guys or badasses or hardcore dudes. Like, to mix that sort of mentality with toy trucks is just stupid. Like, it couldn't be more embarrassing on the outside to everybody when somebody's a tough guy over toy cars. Like, that's so silly and so dumb that there's no place for it. And so I see all this being correctable, and I try and help by doing my part by working to make fun events for people, trying to donate when I can and be supportive of people that are trying to give back to the hobby, and do what I can to support them, whether it's through product or even something as simple as trying to promote their event or their new part. I mean, there's people that I've worked with that are like, hey, I've got this idea or this new brand, can we kind of come together and turn this into something, and I love situations like that. And so I think whenever somebody's looking to make the hobby a better place by getting, a new product or a new event or a new set of rules or a new way of doing things, I think it's important to give those people credit where credit's due for taking it upon themselves to try and, make this something that's enjoyable for everybody. And, don't hack on them, because that's how you end up losing support, and you end up losing events, and different locations and everything else. It can all go so badly, and I see a lot of that being taken for granted. And it is hard. It's tough to be like a voice of authority within a club and like lay down rules and explain to people, hey, this is a bad look for us, we can't have this kind of behavior. And there's some people that are going to get it and they're going to be like, oh, you're right. And there's some people that aren't going to get it and they're going to be upset about it and get online and be vocal and everything. And that's the kind of people that you don't really want involved with anyways. So yeah, you may not want to deal with the confrontation or whatever, but just remove the negative people like that from your organization, or even more importantly from your own life, and you can work towards making this something that's more enjoyable for yourself and everybody around you.
Oh, totally.
No, I like that we kind of just casually talked about this because we didn't really plan on talking about any of this, but I like the
No,
fact
no,
that we
this was
just kind of
totally
winged it and
seat of our
just,
pants.
well, no, and like I said, it's not negative. It's just we're just talking about some real issues that are out there that you see on a daily basis on Instagram. And it's a good discussion to have at some point, because I know everybody's been trolled by somebody. I know that some people can shake it off and other people don't like it. And it's harder to put that into perspective for some people, which I'm one of those people that it's like it's harder for me to take something with a grain of salt, and stuff will kind of get under my skin a little bit. And it's hard to change yourself from that, but
Oh yeah.
you can try. I mean, there's, you know,
Yeah. And that's why I said, I guess for me, it's more like, you know, the whole mentality of enough is enough. And eventually you just go, you know what, and you kind of give up. That's kind of like the attitude I took to become the way I am now is I gave up trying to, you know, worry about like, like, oh, this person's still upset because I didn't do this, or oh, this person thinks that I'm stupid because I'm running, whatever, or I like this stuff. And it's like eventually you just kind of go, all right, I give up. I'm just going to
yeah.
do whatever makes me happy.
And
And that's it, you know?
yeah, and 9 times out of 10, it's like it's some dude on Facebook. You don't know this person. You don't see them every day at work. You don't have to have dinner with them at night. Like, they don't matter. Like, these unhappy people and trolls and stuff, like, they really don't matter. It's not real. They don't affect your life in any way. And what I've seen a lot of firsthand is when people do try and like troll you or try and like throw shade at your business or something like that, 99% of the time it ends up working out better in the end for who you were trying to burn. I mean, it's funny because like the situation with the flags, like the flag stickers, it ended up being wonderful exposure for me, and it turned into a positive. So I mean, it's just, don't go out of your way to ruin stuff for other people, and everybody is going to have so much more fun with this hobby. You could have way less Facebook drama. The club versus club mentality is stupid. I don't know if you guys get that down there, but up here we do, and there's no need for it or anything like that. And but at the end of the day, none of it matters. Like, it doesn't matter. That person cannot affect your life in any way, even if they try. And my business is proof of that, with people getting upset. I mean, it had happened with like the U4RC guys in Arizona where they, and it ended up turning into a positive for me, and all that stuff. I love it when it backfires, and just, if people can just keep with that, and just turn it around, when somebody's, being a turd online or something, turn it around. And, there's no reason why there can't be a stop to it, is all I'm saying. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but I don't know. To me, it's a shame to see an incredibly fun leisure time activity like this that really there's not much that compares to it. And I don't feel like I'm just hyping that up because it's my preferred hobby in business. I have yet to see a sad person driving an RC car, like
Oh,
out on
exactly.
the trail, so it's like, I it it needs to be that for everybody involved, and it certainly can be, if everybody just kind of does their own little part. And eventually, if you don't engage with the crazies and stuff and the trolls, they'll go away eventually because they just want attention, like what you were saying. It's their chance to be heard and be seen and be noticed, and some people thrive off of that, and they need that. Like, the world saw where I stand on something today, and it's like, granted, maybe it was 30 people on your friends list or something, but I mean, it's like, all right, whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, we're just trying to promote positivity, get you out there on the trail, motivate you to want to, you know, get involved in your RC community, whether you're in Northern California, Southern California, Washington, East Coast, Midwest, down south, whatever. Get involved in your community. Um, just make it a place to get more people because the more we grow this, the better it's going to be in the long run. So,
Oh, absolutely. And it is so much fun. I mean, it really is. I mean, there was just three of us out the other night driving, and dude, it was like it reminded what it reminded me of is it kind of took me back to when you're like little kids and you're outside playing and it's starting to get dark and you're supposed to go home. Like, it brought back that fun, youthful feeling, for a couple hours, and it was awesome. And I think that this hobby is so good because anybody can go experience that for very little money in comparison to other things that you can get involved in. And you
oh
can go
yeah,
out and you can have a good time. You can build something and get an enormous amount of satisfaction of building something yourself, even if it's as small as just shopping for the right components to complete the look that you're after. I mean, you don't even have to be a big fabricator. You can just be a guy who put a lot of thought into how his build is presented, and how it looks. And that is a really awesome thing for somebody to be able to experience. There is a lot of self satisfaction with this hobby, and I have yet to take anybody out and have them not like it. Like,
oh yeah,
I've never introduced anybody to it and have them be like, man, this wasn't fun. This isn't for me. It's like the very like most negative thing I think I've actually heard out of somebody was like, oh man, this is pretty fun. I don't know if my budget can allow for it though. Like, that's like the worst thing I think I've heard ever exposing somebody to this, which is not bad. I think that's pretty cool, and there's a lot of
yeah,
people coming from other areas of RC that are getting into scale just because it is fun and it is laid back, and it's generally a really cool group of people that you get to spend your time with, and it's fantastic, and everybody deserves to be able to feel that way. I think, like, everybody should be able to take home that same experience that you get, and I don't know. There's just very little things in life that can bring you happiness like that, and for me, it's a blast, and I've met amazing people through it. Like you and John Kerry and Ty and so many different people that maybe we wouldn't be friends in the real world, but the love of tiny trucks is what brought us together and actually formed solid friendships around that. And
oh yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if that happens with like football fans or something, if that's what you're into, or, I don't know. There's not a lot out there I see that creates that sense of camaraderie, because even like with RC racing, there is still competition and rivalry and tempers, and it gets intense. It's racing. I mean, people are there to compete and they're there to try their absolute best and give it all, and that can even be kind of a stressful thing too. And I mean, I see drift guys coming over to this, racers coming over to it, because it is something that's so fun. So if there's companies, individuals, clubs out there working to make the hobby a better place, then support it. Buy their product, show up at their event, tell people that you had a good time, tell somebody that they did a great job on a build, introduce new friends to new products that you've come across that you think are cool. Like, that's really the essence of the hobby, I think, that has pulled the majority of us in. You know, I don't think anybody necessarily gets into Scale RC to be the best person or be the guy that knows more than anybody else, and that is what they set out to do, and that was their goal, so that they can be the authority on, you know, what it should be. And that's I, there may be a very small percentage of people like that, but for the most part, you know, it's everybody has that same feeling. And so really, like, you see, you know, Axial Fest, like, you know, 1,800 people coming together that all have the same interest. That's awesome. That, you know, if you can get along like that in person, not have fights and stuff breaking out and everything else, there's no reason why it can't be that way when you're on Facebook and everything else. I mean, it could be really, really the same atmosphere. And I keep saying Axial Fest, and I mean, I'm not going this year, but at the same time, like, they did it right in the past. I mean, if you're looking to do any type of event or anything like that, that's a great model, you know, because I really do feel like that. Not, and I don't say successful in the financial sense. I say successful as in, I think that Axial Fest fulfills their mission to their customer base by the time that weekend is over. You know, they've created a truly special event to bring all of their customers together to show, you know, hey, we care about you guys. We care about this hobby and what we do. And this is what we want to do to give back to you, you know. And so give them a break, because, man, there's not a lot of good people out in the world that are like that anymore. You know, it's starting to become more and more of a rare thing. And sometimes in society, it kind of turns into like a me first frame of mind, and anything that can kind of let you escape that daily grind of all the BS and drama, then, you know, go out and do it. And this is definitely the hobby for you if this is something you think that you've been wanting to get involved in. I mean, basically, like, if you look at Scale RC and you even wonder if it's for you, it's for you, just based on the fact that you're even wondering about it. Like, if it looks remotely fun, I guarantee you it is, whether it's like a trail run, a comp, whatever. Like, do it. Don't be afraid to just take part of it and check it out and do it. Support each other, support these clubs, because you're going to have a good time. I mean, you will. There's no way around it. You're not going to leave and be like, man, that really sucked. You know, I was out there for 3 hours today in the sunshine, crawling with my RC car and laughing with buddies. You know, like, you're not going to have a bad time. So get involved, you know, kind of disregard some of the negative stuff you see on Facebook and whatnot, and just do it. If you want to put an event together, then do it. You know, you don't have to even have a club like what Jesse did. I was super surprised when Jesse had approached me, you know, and was talking about doing that event and whatnot, and kind of sold me on it. And I was like, man, that's awesome, you know, that a person goes and does this. It's not, and it's for a great cause too, for charity. I mean, the people that are willing to sacrifice their time and expense to put something like that on, 100% go support them, because that's just the coolest thing ever. And I would love to see more of that. I mean, I think that's great, and it can be a thankless position sometimes, but man, I mean, look at the fun you had down there. And like, you and I had like multiple like mutual friends that were there with you and stuff. Like, everybody had a great time and stuff, and that's cool, you know. Like, and I think Jesse did some smart things too. Like, when you were talking about how he had done the, you know, this is something I meant to come back to earlier, but doing the raffle first, like, there's actually a couple ways of looking at that. First, you're getting everybody while they're still excited and wanting to win something, not all tired and drained after being on the trail for the entire day, you know, when really all they want to do is get home. So it's smart to get everybody early like that, because you are going to have more excitement revolving around it, and you're going to generate more money for whatever your cause is. So I think that was something that was done that was really important. Now, the flip side of that, if you are putting on an event and you're wanting to have a big turnout, let's say, and it's not necessarily a money raiser for, you know, a charity or anything like that, but you're wanting to, you know, give some prizes away and stuff like that, but you want people to focus on the experience, like the whole experience, do your raffle at the end, because then you're guaranteed to have people there that are you're going to have them engaged the entire day. You know, you're going to have them out on the trail. They're not just showing up to possibly win something and then go home, you know. So there's two ways of looking at that. And if you're going to kind of structure something, I think you need to look at like what your goal is, you know, whether it's going to be to raise money or to, you know, more or less just promote the experience. So again, there's, you know, there's no right or wrong way. You know, some ways work better than others, but you know, I think it's really cool that, you know, you guys had a great time last weekend and stuff, and it turned out the way it did. And from a sponsor standpoint, I'm pumped. I mean, next year when Jesse comes to me and he says, "Hey, we're doing this again, you know, we're going to make it an annual thing," like, you bet I'm going to be on board, you know? I mean, there's been outfits that I've sent stuff to and overnighted product to that I didn't even so much as get like a thank you out of them or anything, you know, when the event was done. And that sucked, you know. And so obviously I'm not going to support it the next year that they come to me cuz I got no feedback or input, you know. But I mean, not only have I heard from Jesse, but I've also heard from people that have attended, and everybody said the same thing. And man, awesome. You know what? I'm all 100% support it next year. I think that's fantastic. And good events like that put on by people that care are kind of hard to find, you know. I mean, especially when there's not, I mean, there's zero selfish motivation to anything that he did with that event this last weekend. I mean, it wasn't to raise money for a club or anything like that. It was just straight up giving it to people that needed the money, and I think that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Not to totally, I guess, just stop cold turkey, but I know we try to hit our time mark, and we're
Oh,
almost
yep.
pushing on 2 hours.
Yeah. Oops.
So it's okay. That's what happens when we got an engaging conversation. Just to circle back to one little quick thing, before we say goodbye till next week. It even goes with, like, for instance, like our little podcast we're doing. Not to totally, like, you know, throw anything our way, but you know, I've looked into, before we've talked about doing a podcast, like what it would take to do a podcast. It really doesn't take a lot, but it's more of just taking time and like dedication to making sure you follow through with it. Um, we knew going into this, maybe the first week, second week, even the first month, we might not get a ton of listeners or subscribers. Some of it due to the fact that we're still dealing with the different platforms to upload to. Some of it being the fact that it's still so new and not everybody's caught on. Um, but if you let that get to you and you let it go, hey, look, we're doing this and we're only getting 10 people this week, and the next week you only get two more people, you know, hey, you're still growing. It may not be the fastest rate, but hey, you're still growing. And if you're having fun doing it, which we both, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I mean, I'm enjoying doing it. So, just keep it happening and keep doing it, and keep pushing the motivation and the positivity. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not doing this to like get famous or show anybody like that I know something, or you know, convince anyone like it get popular, whatever. That's not it. Like, this is just fun and I enjoy doing it. And you know, that's what it's all about. There is some things that I think could be kind of cool. One of the things, I don't want to, you know, take up too much more time, but there was one thing that I wanted to bring up was, I think what might be kind of neat, and if there's any listeners out there that would be like into this idea, but it might be kind of cool to in some of the areas where crawling's bigger, there are some larger clubs, maybe work something out and have like correspondence. You know, like we can have guys that are out in the field that are, you know, contributors to the podcast that can give us the nuts and bolts and details of how an event went, and you know, where they were and it was great, and you know, what's coming up. And it'd be kind of cool to get like, let's say you've got, you know, for example, just because we were talking about him, so Jesse, let's say Jesse is like deep in the tiny tire scene, right? Well,
Hmm.
Jesse be a correspondent, and if there's an event or something going on, be like, hey, I'm going to go there, check it out. I'll take some pictures, take some video, either send it to you guys or post it up on the podcast page. And, that way we've got like some, people out in the field, these almost like a news correspondent in a way. So, I mean, that's something that we could even try that might be kind of fun too. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I'm totally game for it.
Because I was thinking this weekend when I'm at because we've got, so there's a comp at King Crawling RC down in Kent Saturday night. It's a nighttime comp, so you've got to have like lights and stuff like that. And then we've got our event this weekend coming up. I don't on Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do both, but one of the things that I thought might be kind of cool, and if you're down with this, maybe like video some stuff when I'm there. Not only just take some pictures, but maybe just if somebody's got a cool rig or that they've built or something, like grab it and be like, hey, let's shoot a quick video here and like show me this thing. What did you do to this? Like tell me about your build. And like do some stuff like that, so we've got like some more like things to engage people with on the page and
Oh
whatnot,
yeah.
and some shorter videos or brief interviews or highlights of just different events and stuff. It'd be really cool to get more things up on that than just the podcast, like just have just a little more like sometimes people are visual, and they need that to engage. So maybe that's something that we could try too. That might be kind of fun for everybody. So I don't know. I mean, we're open to it. And if you guys like think of stuff and have comments or suggestions or questions, I mean, please, like, by all means, hit us up, message us, post it on our, the Facebook page for the show, whatever. But I mean, ideally, we've kind of wanted to have this be something we can engage with the public right from the start, and I really would love to see that. We haven't seen a lot of it yet. We're getting there. There's definitely some people that
Oh
we
yeah.
hear from repeatedly now that that we actually have kind of some regular communication with, like Kyle Predmore, for example, Wes from Wes Made. So we're starting to grow that like group, it looks like, so I think that's really cool. And little things like sharing rides and stuff. So anyways, I don't know, I think that would be kind of cool if we featured some of those things to maybe grow it a little bit. But either way, it's I don't think we're not going to be deterred. So we'll just keep doing our thing because it's something fun to do.
Oh yeah. Totally. That was a little technical. I don't know if you got any of that. That was a technical difficulty. It said call failure on my end.
Oh no, I heard a couple little beeps and that was it. So well,
Yeah.
anyways,
No.
I kind of covered events that are happening up here that in that last little spiel there. So unless you have anything, I don't. I'm all dried up.
No, that's it. I think we covered a lot. Like I said, or like we've said, not trying to be negative through this one, just spreading awareness. And yeah, we'd like to hear from you guys. I know we always say it and can't say it enough, but please engage with us. Let us know, if there's a feature you'd like to hear. If you have any ideas, we're open to whatever. So I think with that being said, we'll end this episode and we'll see
Yeah,
you guys next week.
sounds good.
So, all right, guys, until next time, see ya.